glad to have you here. This is the place, and this is very important. There's no messing around. We now have the United States election, which is going to affect the world. No question about it. You have two completely different principles at play here. One that supports life and Judeo-Christian principles, and that which is completely secular, lawless, and a death cult, the Democrats. Kamala Harris doesn't know what she stands for. She's just unilaterally coup d'etat into the Democratic realm and party for the simple fact that she's easy to control. And if America loses this because a Democrat supposedly wins or they cheat a couple key swing states, especially in the blue wall, the supposed blue wall. But if that happens, World War III within Kamala's term, no question about it. And if World War III didn't break out, okay, you're still going to have these other wars. You're going to have Russia, Ukraine, you still have Israel, Hamas, and then you're going to have these other regional wars like Taiwan, China, Pakistan, India. That's the next closest thing to World War III. If not World War III, but people aren't calling it that. Inflation is going to continue to go up, especially because she still supports this Green New Deal ideology. It's going to destroy the middle class. It's going to be less money for evangelism in the world because lots of Americans still support evangelism. But hey, the gospel's still going to go out throughout the world, even if there's no money there. Look at the Roman Empire. A lot of Christians were slaves. They had no money, and yet the gospel still went out to many parts of the world. Even when Rome was powerful and Christianity just began, what happened? Christianity has endured for 2,000 years, and the Roman Empire has come to nothing. So if America falls, Christianity will continue, but that's not the main thing at this point. Some people say, well, persecution, Christianity grows. So by that standard, Christianity should be the majority in pretty much every country. Christianity should be the majority in every country in the last 2,000 years. So people that say stupid stuff like that, no, this is completely false. Sometimes God uses persecution to let the gold be purified in the fire, to expose who the real Christians and the true Christians are, no question about that. But to think that Christianity is automatically going to prosper just because there's persecution. There's lots of persecution in North Korea. There's probably very, very few Christians in North Korea. Many of them don't even have access to an internet. Many of them have never heard the gospel. So would it be better for North Korea to be, let's say, a democracy where thousands and hundreds of thousands of South Koreans and Christians and all kinds of Americans and all kinds of people throughout the world, all kinds of people to go into North Korea and share the gospel? Or would it better be to spread the gospel through persecution? Persecution doesn't automatically spread the gospel because there's not necessarily a message. You have to have a message of the gospel because the gospel is that good news. If you don't have a message, you can't spread the gospel. So that's that. But yeah, inflation is going to be off the charts if Kamala wins, and that's going to be a real big problem. And these things, there's 350,000 missing children. There's going to be another 10 to 20 million entering our country, with another 350,000 probably proportionately if Kamala wins. Let's say Kamala shuts up the border next year, the end of 2025. Another, let's say, 2.5 million to 5 million people enter our country at the end of 2025. Okay, I don't think that we will ever win another election as Republicans again, because we have one of the top 5 presidents of all time in Trump, one of the worst candidates ever in Kamala Harris, and if we can't win this election, we will never win another election, because those illegals are going to be funneled to swing states, some of them, and we're not going to win another election ever again. It's just the reality of it. So that's that. Fentanyl's going to kill another 100 to 200,000 people. 2025. Can you believe the amount of people that are going to die on fentanyl because of these perverse and insane border policies? I mean, absolutely insane. And then people are saying, well, Christians are not going to vote. Well, evangelicals are going to vote. People that are attending a liberal, quote, Lutheran church, they might not vote because they're idiots. Let's just be honest. They aren't taught a gospel in their churches, and they're not understanding what one party stands for in Judeo-Christian values and the other is quite secular, because they take the perverse secular views that are stirred up with nothing but emotion and completely blind of anything biblical or intellectual, and they think that that's based on compassion. But if you just peer through the waters and go a little bit deeper, it's not based on compassion. It's absolutely ruthless and blatantly evil policies that the Democratic Party has. And so those liberal Lutherans and other types of people like them that aren't voting, they don't really count as Christians when people say Christians aren't voting. Now, there's a few conservative Christians that, by conservative, I mean they're quite good in their theology, they're quite biblical in their theology, but they're not voting. Again, those people lack wisdom. Those people are ignorant. It's quite sad. I don't think there's a lot of them, but there are some of them. Okay. If we lose, the blood is going to be on their hands. Some of these states, we have the possibility to outlaw abortion or to severely weaken abortion. In some of these states, have upped the ante and want to have abortion basically up to 9 months. Some of the bringing down from the Supreme Court to the state level has been a 180 against the pro-life movement, believe it or not, in some states. That's, and if we lose this election, it's because we have blood on our hands for the abortion issue, for the quote-unquote gay marriage, for the transgenderism, for the drag queens in schools, for the sex trafficking that we're not going after these people. All those things. And you know what? The church is supposed to lead these issues. Just be biblical. Not only preach the gospel, but preach the whole counsel of God. If you preach the whole counsel of God, then your children would know as they grow up who to vote for. But you have these people that are supposedly theologically biblical and conservative, but then their children grow up and they don't vote biblical principles. Is it because they went to secular school? They've never been taught the whole counsel of God? And part of it is lack of parenting, lack of teaching your kid good values. And so some of these parents have failed. If Trump wins, is this going to mean America's going to go into a biblical revival? Not necessarily. Again, good can come out of the evil of Kamala Harris. It can expose who the real Christians and who the true Christians are in the next 4 years if Kamala wins. When we look at the polls, when we look at the demographics, black men, Arabs, Amish, young men in general, Democrat has lost in voter registration. Republicans have gained in most of the swing states greatly in voter registration. And even independents, I believe, are slightly breaking for Trump compared to Democrats because of people like Elon Musk and so on. So across the board, Trump is in a very strong position, and he always overperforms the polls. And he has better economic policy and better on borders based on the polls than Kamala Harris. And his track record has shown it as well. So Trump is in a strong position to lead. You got to be tough to lead. You can be a little bit under people's skin with the language, but when you're going after ISIS, as he did, and destroyed them, great. We need someone like that. Kamala is not fit to lead. She's not genuine. She's a hyena. She laughs. She's annoying. She's not articulate. She's two-faced. You can't trust her. She's evil. So the last thing I want to say is two things. If some Christians are not voting because of your quote pastor, well, be your own man. I think smaller churches have a tendency to be more biblical, to be more faithful, to be like, hey, a lot's on the line here. Vote biblical, which is vote red, obviously, for a plethora of reasons. But for those big super churches, for some of those super churches where your pastor's like, well, we don't really know how to vote. We're just going to be silent. It's not because those people aren't equipped. Charlie Kirk said, those pastors aren't equipped. No, those people know theology. They're equipped. They're just cowards, Charlie. That's the difference. So those pastors who are not saying stand up for America, love your neighbor, vote for Judeo-Christian values, which is Trump. If they're not saying that, then they're just cowardly. Those pastors are not leaders by any stretch of the imagination, because this election cannot be any more black and white. So that's that. The last thing is, there's always a possibility of a civil war breaking out. I hope a civil war doesn't break out. If it breaks out, it breaks out. So people need to be prepared. There could be deviant characters behind the scenes from other countries. Technology, cyber attacks, loss of power could be completely disastrous. So I would warn people, if you haven't prepared already, then you're in a problem. You should have some backup power. You should have some backup water. You should have some backup food, some noodles, some crackers, anything to get you at least by for 1 week. 1 week. Because if Democrats lose, they're probably going to be the ones that are going to destroy the country. But, just be patient. If you're a Christian, go out and vote. This is not a time for prayer. This is time to vote. Voting is much more important than prayer on this particular day. After you vote, pray. Great. But vote right now. Especially if you're in the swing states. All right, Trump's got a great chance to win this. And if he loses, our hope is not in man, it's in God. But it will be depressing, because hundreds of thousands of people are going to die under the hand of Kamala compared to the hand of Trump, if history has told us anything. Trump's foreign policy is probably the greatest foreign policy among all of American presidents, top 2. Unbelievable. I never would have believed it. He shocked me when he got in office, but it was a thing of beauty. And if a war does break out as Trump is president, Trump will not necessarily be the cause, but I don't believe that war would last very long. I believe he'd put a quick end to it. People don't want to mess with Trump. He's the man. And so J.D. Vance is a great VP choice, by the way, also. So anyways, that's that. And support America, and hopefully God will bless America. But you know what? He's already judging us. We're already going the wrong direction. Is this the final nail in the coffin, or is he going to give us a little bit of light and a little bit of time to kind of sort things out, so to speak? We're going to find out here in the next, 12 hours. So leave it at that. Thank you for listening. Peace.